Hello everyone, my name is Chris and welcome to my hobby blog. Today we are doing a Withering Watchpile episode. This is going to be a return to that series. I'm very excited for this. Today we are going to be doing Italian horror, which was proposed by CultFlixFix24, who is usually the Withering Watchpile watcher partner. I don't know what to call it, but today I'm very excited to welcome back to the channel Will. Welcome back. How's it been?
Hey, I'm glad to be here. This is my first time doing a Withering Watch Pile with you. And those tend to be among my favorite videos. So it's a real pleasure.
Yeah, I was looking back in the playlist because I was like, how long has it been since we've done
Oh,
one? And
it's
it's
been,
been, I think October was the last time we did a video
yeah.
for the George Romero ranking. And I was like, we need to come back and get something done. And this is a video that we've been wanting to do for a while, something with Withering Watchpile. And we finally found a really great theme, again, proposed by Leon. And I saw some very good movies for these three. Two of them are rewatches, but it's been a while. One of them was a totally new watch for me. And I guess we'll get into which ones those are as we start. But for those who haven't seen a Withering Watchpile in a while, the format of it is usually we start off talking about what the topic is, so Italian horror, talk about what we've seen, what we like about it, directors who we usually turn to for this genre, and then we go into our last place movie. So our least favorite movie. One of us will go. I'll let you go, Will, since you're the guest, and then I'll go, and then we'll go back to Will for the middle favorite, and then our favorite one. So it's a fun format. There can be a lot of different paths of discussion, not destruction, but maybe we can do some destructing of tropes and all that. But yeah, what about Italian horror do you like most?
Um, Italian horror. Well, you got this great combination of like Gothic stateliness, particularly coming out of the um, Mario Bava type of films, Black Sunday, um, for example, other early um, Italian Gothic films like Mill of the Stone Women. It's actually looking like it's going to be a good year for discovering or rediscovering Italian horror. I've been eyeing Severin's box set of the Danza Macabra Volume 1 Italian Gothic collection, which is all films that I've not seen, but I've always wanted to see Lady Frankenstein, which is in that set. So I'm very excited there. So a combination of that like Gothic lineage with the stylized violence and Freudian sexual perversion of the Gialli films. And then when you get into the 70s and start adding Italian zombies and cannibals to the mix, things just get weird. And I'll go ahead and tell you, there's going to be a couple of Joe D'Amato movies in my.
I'm
in
happy to hear that.
my um, yeah, there's just Italian horror films tend to, especially in the modern era, tend to take a cue from successful films from Hollywood or elsewhere in Europe. But then, you know, once they've got the green light to make a movie, those filmmakers really go in their own directions. And I think that Italian horror films, are particularly wondrous in their assault on any sense of decency you might have as a viewer. So that's where I'll stand. I'm teaching my cult films class this semester, and so showed some of the hits, Bird with the Crystal Plumage and Profundo Rosso from Argento, Don't Torture a Duckling from Fulci. And a lot of the students had never seen a Giallo before and are now fans.
Yeah. Italian horror to me has the sort of comfortable feeling that you get where it does use a lot of sort of tropes and storylines that you already know, but it goes in a totally different direction. And you see this a lot definitely in the 80s and 70s where they are copying Dawn of the... Not really copying Dawn of the Dead, but they definitely do copy a lot of the zombie sort of structures where you start with the kill and then you have a group of characters. They have to get to the island or the prison or... I'm mostly thinking of Anthropophagus right now, which is Italian, right? So I'm not going to lose my credibility as a cult film watcher, but they get to the island and one by one they all get killed off, and the Italian directors like Lucio Fulci and Dario Argento, they go beyond what people expect from a horror movie. And especially with Lucio Fulci, my favorite thing about him is definitely the stylized violence. One of the movies that I watched tonight, or not tonight, but this week for this episode, is a Fulci movie where all of the kills were absolutely amazing, but there wasn't much else going on. And I think that's okay because Lucio Fulci, his kills in all of his movies are so stylized, so violent. There's definitely the weird psychosexual part of it, especially with the Giallo genre, where not everyone is as they seem, and that's definitely one of my favorite parts of a Giallo, is trying to figure out who the killer is, what the motivations are. And half of the Dario Argento movies, I always forget who the killer is, because it's a last-minute reveal, and then, bam, credits. And you don't really have time to get to know who the villain is after the fact. You have to go into the movie already knowing who the killer is to spot all of the hints and stuff. And I think Deep Red, Profondo Rosso, is the best at the Giallo formula. And one of my favorite things to do is rewatch that movie because the killer is right there, literally. Their face is in the middle of the screen in one of the shots, and it's a very quick shot, and it's perfect. And those are my favorite type of Giallo films. But is there anything else about the genre in general you want to talk about?
Well, I'm sure I'll say some things with each specific movie. But yeah, the style really defines. I mean, there's a particular stylishness, especially with the Giallo, that I think really defines Italian horror and has influenced Hollywood directors in ways that they themselves won't acknowledge. Like, I refuse to believe that Martin Scorsese hasn't seen Don't Torture a Duckling. I think that movie has influenced him. I think Brian De Palma knows Giallo just as well as he knows Hitchcock. I don't have any proof, but I don't think anybody can disprove it either. So yeah, let's get into it. So your first one was Deep Red. Great.
It was not. I was just talking about my favorite one. I haven't gone into my picks yet, but that was an example. And before we go into the video, I did get a new shirt today.
Oh, let's see.
The Haunters Against Haunt, or Hate. Haunters Against Hate.
Great.
And it's I forgot his name, but Barbara's brother is saying that they're coming to get you, Barbara. And on the bottom it says
because hate is the scariest thing of all.
Yes. Yeah. I can't read it upside down. But
That's good.
that came in like an hour ago, according to my phone app. So I was like, oh, what great timing. So I had to show it off.
That's great. Now more than ever. Well, actually, that means the shirt I'm wearing is more relevant than I thought it would be, um, because I'm wearing a shirt that means love. Um, it's my Sade concert shirt because I saw Sade in concert several years ago, and not a lot of people know this about me, but I am a huge Sade fan. I have every single album. Love her.
I don't know anything about them, so
Yeah, check out some Sade.
I will. So, what was your least favorite pick?
So all of these, let me preface it by saying all the ones that I've got in this stack are films that I really enjoyed. Um, but I can rank them in terms of how much I enjoyed them on this watch. So this is a double feature disc that came from Scream Factory, and I only watched one of the films on it, so I can't speak to the other. And that is Witchery.
Ooh.
It comes on a double feature with Ghost House. I will be watching Ghost House probably next week, so I'll be able to tell you about that next time. But Witchery, which is directed by Fabrizio Laurenti, I had to look it up to make sure I could pronounce it correctly. As you may have guessed, it's a film about witchery. There's some witches, curses, and potential demon and a potential haunting. But the reason that I find this film intriguing before seeing it for the first time is that it is one of two films that team up Linda Blair with David Hasselhoff.
Oh, I thought you were going to say a demon.
So Witchery stars Linda Blair and David Hasselhoff. And also there's a very wonderful and cheesy action crime cop trying to protect a witness film. It was David Hasselhoff against a bunch of gangsters trying to protect Linda Blair. It's called Bailout. And I do hope that Vinegar Syndrome or someone gets the elements to that movie sometime, because it is crazy. But it's not Italian and it's not horror. So we're going to talk about Witchery. I have no idea what's really going on. Basically, it's got some Agatha Christie type overtones. A bunch of people get stranded at an island resort by bad storms. And while they are in the house, spooky, occasionally scary and disgusting things happen. There's some genuine atmosphere here. I really enjoyed some of the nightmares, but is it real kind of scenes. David Hasselhoff in anything brings a level of kind of, camp humor. Linda Blair is kind of understated in this role, which is unusual for the time. Well, still histrionic compared to anybody else, but this is a good minor Italian horror film. I bet that it'll make a good double feature with Ghost House. I look forward to watching that. Witchery. Definitely worth a watch. Maybe a couple beers. I don't know. I enjoyed it without beers. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say one of my first one I'll talk about. I think 1 or 2 beers is essential, but I'll get into that. I don't think I've ever even heard of Witchery, so I'm sure I bypassed it at some point on a sale, and nothing even processed to my brain, so I skipped it. But I'll keep my eye out. I hope the other one's good.
definitely, if there's like a Scream factory sale and you see it up for $9.99 or something, get it. Totally worth it.
It's
Totally worth
$5 a movie. I mean, one of which is great.
Well, I didn't say great.
Well,
So that's my first one. What you got?
so my first one is a Lucio Fulci movie. I apologize to everybody for having a Lucio Fulci be my least favorite one, but it is good. The kills are great. It is very spooky and is a direct adaptation of a Edgar Allan Poe story. We are talking about The Black Cat.
Yes.
I'd never seen this before until last night. I watched this one and then my favorite one right after that as a double feature. And it was a very good double feature. But this movie is very, I don't want to say tropey, but it is the Edgar Allan Poe story. If you have read anything by him, you know sort of what you're getting into, which is slow madness creeping into our main characters as spooky things happen and no one believes them. That's the entire movie, is that we have an amazing actor named Patrick McGee, who has been in Clockwork Orange, Barry Lyndon, and a million low-budget horror movies. I was looking at his IMDb and I was like, wow, I've heard of all these movies, but I haven't seen any of them. Now I have to go watch them because he's great in this one. He plays an inspector who is solving murder, or trying to solve a murder, but there's a cat who has hypnotist powers, I don't know, and is able to control the inspector and multiple other people using hypnotism to then kill other people. But sometimes the cats will do the kill itself. And we have a lot of lovely kills throughout, a lot of great makeup effects of flesh getting torn from the arms. At one point, Inspector McGee is thrashed in the arm, and the cat is like raking his arm, and flesh is peeling off of it. And he's like, "Oh yeah, it's fine. The cat wants me dead, but we're codependent, so it's fine." And there's even a line at, I think, the midway point that I wrote down because I loved it so much. Patrick McGee says, "We are bound together by hatred." And I thought that was a really metal quote. So I wrote it down. I thought it was great. It starts right off the bat with a driver violently dying in a car crash and it exploding into flames because a cat somehow gets into the backseat of his car and hypnotizes him while he's driving. It's really bizarre, but that's why we love Lucio Fulci, is that he has this very standard story setup, but he goes in all these different directions that you do not expect. And there's a point in the movie where Mimsy Farmer, who is in a million Giallo movies like Four Flies on Grey Velvet, Autopsy, and one movie that looks really cool, The Perfume of the Lady in Black, which the cover on the Letterboxd whatever listing looks really cool. But Mimsy Farmer is really great in this one. She digs around in graves, is doing anthropology or archaeology or something. And Patrick McGee shows up and he's like, "I knew it was you. You had your bag of tools. Like, don't come back here." And the entire movie is us getting nowhere with the mystery of who is killing all these people. But it's peppered in with really great kills. And it's one of my favorite parts of this movie. But the downsides to it is that there's a whole lot of exposition all about how the cat is haunted and a witch and whatever justifications they were using. These scenes completely stop the movie, in my opinion, and it's very dry. The characters are just sitting down and they're talking to each other. That's really the only downside to this movie. A couple beers, maybe a friend or two, will make this a really fun movie to watch. But There is some really fun atmospheric fog going on, where Patrick McGee goes to the woods and is hunting down the cat, and the cat is yowling in the fog, and he's turning around, and the camera is really hectic, and it's just, it's not standard, as if it's a bad thing, but standard Lucio Fulci cinematography and edits, I guess. So it was really fun while watching it, but overall I thought it was just pretty good. So have you seen it?
By coincidence, and I think I'll move this up to talk to you about next. I watched a double feature of Loose Black Cat adaptations, the Arrow release that packages Fulci's The Black Cat with the movie that I will now talk about, Sergio Martino's Your Vice is a Locked Room and Only I Have the Key.
I almost watched that for this.
Definitely my favorite English translation of a Italian horror title. I was just wanting to look up Il tuo vizio è una stanza chiusa e solo io ne ho la chiave. That's my attempt at the original Italian title, which I think is Your Vice is a Locked Room and Only I Have the Key. This is one of my favorite Sergio Martino movies of all time. And I enjoyed Fulci's Black Cat. I think your analysis is pretty spot on for the highs and lows of that. So I'll move on to Martino. This film is hallucinatory. I don't want to do Martino a disservice by comparing him to Argento, but I do think that this film is Martino's most Argento-esque in terms of its sort of dream nightmare narrative, a sort of non-linear narrative. There's Edwidge Finch is the am I even pronouncing her name right? She's the main character. The film has a unhappy relationship at its center. There's all these parties that her man friend is hosting for these hippies. The name of the cat is Satan. Anita Strindberg is in it. Ivan Rassimov is in it. So you got some standbys of the genre. It's just so much fun and disturbing and thought-provoking. It's a good film. It's a film that you can find unsettling and laugh at the same time. Not laugh at as in derisively, but just at how out there it is. And of course, hippies in the 70s with their outfits and their crazy ideas about the world. So I definitely recommend Your Vice is a Locked Room and Only I Have the Key. I'll have that in my seconds. Yeah.
Awesome. I've actually seen that, and I agree. I think even on Letterboxd, I was like, yeah, this is just an Argento movie, feels like, and how just awesome it was and how well constructed everything is. And yeah, you nailed it. But my second choice, this is my medium favorite, and it's only because the first one is so good. This is a Dario Argento movie, one I've seen before. This was a rewatch for me. But I really like the new restoration that Severin did on this release. Now I'm talking about, of course, Four Flies on Grey Velvet. So I was lucky enough to get the highly priced, very limited edition of it from Severin. And I really like this movie. I love the setup of the masked killer taking a picture of our main character accidentally killing some guy. I don't even remember who that guy was, but he kills somebody. Someone takes a picture from like the third floor in a theater, and it's a very beautiful theater, very distinct and unique as a setting in the Giallo movie. And they take a picture, they see the flash, and they're dead already. The picture's been taken. Doesn't matter what they say because the picture tells no lies. But there's a lot more going on. It's very typical Dario Argento, where he introduces a lot of red herrings throughout the story. We have Mimsy Farmer in this one too. That's why I sort of hesitated on saying the name, but this was number 2, so hopefully I didn't spoil my pick too much. But she's great in it. I know I was listening to the interview with Dario Argento a few weeks back when I first got this release, and I was really surprised to hear him say that his wife divorced him over this movie at the time because she saw so much of herself in Mimsy Farmer's character, who is very, I don't want to be mean, but she was very nagging to our main character, and Dario Argento wrote her that way because he was having so much frustration of his own marriage. And so when they went to the premiere, they watched it together because that's the fun thing to do when you make a movie, is going to the premiere with all the actors and actresses and crew and all that. And she was like, "Do you really think of me that way?" And then divorced him. And he was like, "Yeah, why not? Let's divorce." And he was like, "I'm not happy anyways." And it definitely adds a whole nother layer, because I remember watching that and I was like, what? I have to watch this movie again. So when we were getting ready for this episode, I was like, I have to rewatch this now that I know that she just absolutely was just completely drug over the coals by Dario Argento, because that character is very annoying at times, where she's just constantly just pestering our main character, which I don't see her as pestering him, because she's like, let's get the fuck out of here. Like, there's a killer loose, and you're being framed for this murder. Like, can we go? And he's like, no, I have to solve it, because I gotta clear my name. And it's very stubborn character, which every Dario Argento Giallo movie has. Yeah. And this is his third movie after Cat o' Nine Tails, which I think is a very underrated Dario Argento. I put it up there with Tenebrae, personally. And you can see that this movie is a foreshadowing of Tenebrae. And then I believe he made Tenebrae and then The 5 Days and then Deep Red, which is the single best Giallo movie. So you can see him taking steps from his debut, A Bird with a Crystal Plumage, which is very good and great when you frame it as a debut movie from a new director. And he did work with Sergio Leone on Once Upon a Time in the West, so he had the experience, but it's still impressive how good Bird with a Crystal Plumage is. Yeah. And going from that to Cat o' Nine Tails, where he fine-tunes his style, fine-tunes the Giallo genre, and then by this movie and Tenebrae, he's mastered it.
Yeah, so, for sure.
And I really love watching this movie in that frame, but on its own, I wouldn't say it's my top 5 Argento movies. I find it very fascinating to look at, though, when framing it against all his other Giallo films.
Yeah, recently on the Disconnected show, Ryan and I did a ranking where he did his top 5, and I said something good about my bottom 5. Mm-hmm. Like, I picked my 5 least favorite Argento films and came up with a reason to watch all of them, including Dracula 3D. And that was a lot of fun, because it really makes you stretch your ideas about, like, okay, well, what did I love so much about Tenebrae, and how can I see that the same guy made Dracula 3D? One movie is successful on almost every level, and the other movie isn't. But what kind of through lines can you find? And that's something I always find interesting about Argento. And that's a segue, because my next film is his most recent dark glasses.
I haven't seen
And
this, so no spoilers, please.
okay, no. Okay, well, I can only say one thing then. What I found, I enjoyed the movie, and I think that the good reviews that it got were correct. I also think it's reasonable that people were surprised that it was watchable. Um, I don't think it'll be in anybody's top five or anything like that. But I find this movie fascinating, um, plot wise, very interesting. A lot of things that you'll recognize as being a typical Argento plot in terms of how convoluted it is and so on. But the main characters are a little bit different than what you'd be used to. But what I think is most interesting about it is that he completely changes his color palette. Like when you think of Argento, you think of red and green and blue and really bright colors. This film is very muted.
Hmm.
We're talking about browns and blacks and like forest green, darker green, and there's a reason for that. It's not a spoiler to say that the main character is blind, thus the dark glasses. Um, and the film opens with a sequence around an eclipse of the sun. So it kind of prepares you for this very different color palette and different kind of style of composition and design. So it really, in a way, I guess it's ironic because it's a more muted color palette, but it reinvigorated Argento for me. Yeah, I definitely recommend Dark Glasses to anybody who hasn't seen it.
Yeah, I heard the comparison to Cat o' Nine Tails. And
Mm.
now that you say that the main character is blind, I'm like, okay, yeah, I can see that. Because I didn't want to ask, like, oh, why is it? And then someone say, bam, here's how it ends. But
Yeah. I don't want to tell you anything else. I do think that would be a good double feature, especially because I think there's more to contrast those two films than there is in common.
hmm well, I haven't. I need to see it. I keep forgetting to put it on the to buy list because I'm hoping someone like Second Sight will just do a giant set of it, or even Arrow or Severin. But my number one choice for tonight is one that I've seen before, and I loved it, and I forgot almost everything about it. But then you begin the movie, you start watching it, everything comes back, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm gearing up for an awesome, awesome journey. Now I'm talking about, of course, 1985's film by Lamberto Bava, Demons.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'd seen this about half a year ago for the first time, and I was like, that was awesome. And I forgot everything because that's what happens with Giallos for me, is that they all run together for me. But when I start watching it, I'm like, oh yeah, it's this one. And this was it for me. I love the setting of the movie theater. I love the intro to the movie. Right off the bat, we start with some punk rockers on a train hassling people while awesome 1980s metal is playing, and also original music by Claudio Simonetti of Goblin, who is one of my favorite composers in movie history. I don't know who else I love more, but we have a lot of really great bands represented in the soundtrack. And just the ones that I personally listen to, we have Motley Crue, we have Accept, who is a band that more people need to listen to, and it has one of my favorite songs by them, Fast as a Shock, in it, while somebody on a motorcycle is beating zombies over the head while that song is blaring through the speakers. It's a really awesome song. I love that album, Princess of the Dawn. But we also have Billy Idol, okay, out of left field, but it fits perfectly with the movie. We have Saxon, and we have more, and it's all amazing. We have our main character played by Natasha Hovey. I hope I said that right. And I looked her up, while watching this movie because I was like, I've seen her before, and I look her up and she has 2 other credits, maybe. She has not been in really anything outside of some short films and maybe 1 or 2 other movies, but she's really great in this. We start right off the bat with a creepy guy with a Phantom of the Opera mask that is like welded into his face, passing out. Who is it?
Michele Soavi, the director.
Oh my gosh. I never even noticed that because I know these names, but I don't know the faces. So that explains a lot.
Yeah, talk about an apprenticeship. You work with Argento, Fulci, and Lamberto Bava, and then you go on to your own directing career.
Anyway. That's amazing. But I thought she was going to get killed off again because I forgot what happened with her character specifically. And she lives through, I think, all of the movie. And it's set up just like a Dario Argento intro, where it's stalking her, and you have the awesome goblin music playing. You have the guy who looks different than everybody with his Phantom of the Opera mask, and he's like hobbling towards her, and she thinks he's a threat. And then he's just handing out tickets, and he's fine. And the real danger is the mask that is propped precariously on a motorcycle handle in a museum where anybody could grab it, and it's a showpiece. I don't know who put it there. I don't know if it's part of it. Doesn't matter, because they put it on, someone gets cut. They get turned into a zombie, and it becomes a giant pimple, and it bursts, and it's just like a fountain of pus. It's disgusting. The most disgusting effects I've seen. And that's just the first 15 minutes. And the rest of the movie is pure chaos. Them trying to survive in a movie theater is one of my favorite settings in horror films in general. I put a note here because I was like, oh, hey, I love the classic story setting of a theater. I said, when the fuck are we getting Anguish on Blu-ray or 4K by Bihas Luna? Yeah. I have been waiting for that movie for over a decade. This is one of the original cult films that I saw back in middle school that got me into cult films. And was still looking for a Blu-ray. Blue Underground released the DVD. Just touch it up a little bit and re-release it on Blu-ray, please. Like that's
a little touch up.
Yeah, just a little one, like just the bare minimum. You don't have to do a big second sight Dawn of the Dead set for it. Just anything. But they are watching a movie at this movie theater that is happening concurrently with what's going on in reality. So as somebody gets axed to the head, a character in the movie theater is getting axed in the head. And this is why I was thinking of Anguish, because there's a lot of meta elements throughout this movie, and I love it. Yeah. There's a part where one of the characters says, oh my gosh, this book is from Nostradamus, and a punk is like, Nostradamus sounds like a cool metal band. And I was like, I love that. Like, this movie does not take anything seriously. They are having fun. They have the best dialogue, the best music. Again, towards the end of the movie, someone's riding a motorcycle through the theater with a baseball bat while Accept's Fast as a Shark is playing, and he's decapitating people with baseball bats. It's amazing. I love this movie. It's one of my favorites. And I not deeply regret, but I slightly regret not getting the 4K of 1 and 2. I still haven't seen number 2. So
well, it's great. It's basically, it's kind of, in a way, it's similar to Evil Dead 2 in that it's basically a remake of the original, but in this case it's in a high-rise hotel apartment complex instead of a movie theater. And Asia Argento, who's like 9, 10, is very memorable in her role, because I mean, it's scary. It's kind of scary what she goes through. Yeah, I like Demons too, and I do have the Synapse 4Ks. They are quite lovely.
And one of the last things I wanted to say about this movie is mostly about the genre in general of movie theater-based movies. I love the wide cast of characters that we have in these movies, where we always have the middle-aged businessman in the crowd. He's off. He just wants to get away from his life. He's off to see a creepy, scary movie for an hour and a half, an hour 20 minutes. Honestly, if we're talking about 1980s Italian films, which were very short. And we also have the old guy who is there because he and his wife used to watch movies a lot together. He's just like, you know what, whatever. I don't know anything about this movie, I'll watch it. And then we have all the young punk characters who are bothering all of the older characters in the line because they're just chewing on popcorn, talking, making out, and they're like, oh my gosh, kids, shut up. And then you have, it's just all the demographics, all the lifestyles are represented in these movies. And then they are forced to work together to solve the issue at hand, which is zombies, of course, or in Anguish, creepy serial killer, or in Midnight Movie, a supernatural VHS tape that is projected onto the screen, and he comes out and he kills people. It's great. I mean, I love theater-based movies, and it's a genre I didn't realize was a thing until I kept noticing it popping up throughout movies I've seen. So that's all I have for that.
That's a real banger. So that was your number one?
Yes. Did we skip?
Oh, I think we froze for a second. Was that your number one?
Yes, it was.
Oh shit! Well, I got 5 more. You want me to just go through them real quick?
The floor is yours.
Okay, because I really want to champion these. And I'll also talk a little bit about their additions. So my next one actually is one that you mentioned near the beginning. It is Anthropophagus by Joe D'Amato. And Severin did a great Blu-ray edition that comes with another D'Amato movie called Absurd, which is Truth in Advertising. It is the lesser of the two movies. Not that Anthropophagus isn't also absurd. It is. Transfer is great. I mean, this is one of the key cannibal / serial killers / again, trapped on an island resort movies ever. It has the iconic scene of George Eastman eating his own guts, which is replicated by Severin in a nice plushy toy, which I also have. But one of the best things about the previous DVD edition of Anthropophagus, which Shriek Show put out, is that it has a second disc with a feature-length documentary called Joe D'Amato Totally Uncut 2. Well, what about Joe D'Amato Totally Uncut 1, you may ask? Images in a convent. Oh, can I show all that? So one of D'Amato's nunsploitation films, which Severin also puts out in Blu-ray in their nunsploitation box set, comes with a second disc that has the first half of the documentary. It's an hour and a half long. Part 2 is an hour and a half long. So we're talking about a 3-hour comprehensive documentary of Joe D'Amato's life and career, not included in the Severin extras. And I'm sure that if they could have gotten it, they would have. So I'm not angry with Severin. I'm just disappointed. So if you're a fan of Joe D'Amato, if you're a fan of Anthropophagus, you need to get the Severin edition, but you also got to find the Shriek Show DVDs so that you can get that great documentary. And it is great. I mean, you learn so much about his career, his approach to cinematography, which is really, his real name, Aristide Massachesi. He's really a cinematographer before he is a director. And, you know, he's nearly as prolific as Jess Franco, and many people would say nearly as uneven in his quality. But any Joe D'Amato movie, even including his hardcore features, nearly always have really interesting, really well-crafted cinematography, and are enjoyable on that level, if no other. So check that out if you've never seen it before.
Yeah, I was going to do that for this episode, but I've actually already covered Anthropophagus on another Withering Watchpile, which I think was Zombies. I did it for that. And I remember I was like, I think I'd like it. And then I went on for like 20 minutes about why I liked it. And I was like, yeah, I think I like it. But I love those documentaries because I just finished the Gamera set. And that has a 6-hour documentary where they interview 100 people involved in the making of the trilogy of the later ones in the 80s, in the 90s. I'm sorry. And I love those documentaries. And there's a similar one on the Vinegar Syndrome, vampire woman versus werewolf or whatever. The oh my gosh, the amazing Spanish actor. What's his name?
Who are you talking about? Paul Naschy?
Paul Naschy, yes. Paul Naschy. One of his first movies. There's a documentary on that Vinegar Syndrome release where it's like an hour-and-a-half documentary all about his life from birth to death. And they have interviews with him that I think they licensed from Severin. And they go, and I walked away with a deep appreciation for his movies. And I've only seen like 2 of them, including the one that the documentary was a part of. And so I would love to see a documentary about Joe D'Amato about it.
2 documentaries.
2, yeah.
But yeah, check them out. All right, well, let's see. I've got about 20 minutes left before I'm have an appointment, so I'm going to run through these last 4, which I really am excited to share with you and your audience. I think you know at least 2 of these, and this is not one of them. This is a Ruggero Deodato film, and he just passed away a couple months ago, and so I took the time to see a film of his that I had not seen before. This is not available on a U.S. Release. I have a German DVD, no Blu-ray. Stars Charlotte Lewis, and it is called Dial Help.
Never heard of it.
And I'll just go ahead and give you a synopsis. It is about a haunted telephone. And this is like 1987, 88. And so we're talking landlines here. And the ghost in the machine pursues Charlotte Lewis's character, through the neighborhood, through the streets, via, the cords and the payphones and everything like that. And despite the absolute ludicrous premise, the movie's, I hate to overuse the word, but it's the right word. It's very atmospheric. The climax is both hilarious and kind of creepy. Anytime this is such a trope in horror movies, right? Nobody will believe the victim, even though they're telling the truth. Well, sure as shit, nobody's believing her. It's like, woman, you are nuts. Like any smart, low budget film, it makes use of art galleries, art exhibits, and empty factories to add production value. You get lots of cool architecture plus art objects in the background. Just a lot of fun, and it's a real departure because I think most people know Deodato from his various cannibal movies, jungle movies, Jungle Holocaust, Cannibal Holocaust, Cut and Run, etc. And so this is a chance to see him in an urban environment. I mean, House on the Edge of the Park is kind of in the city, but most of it takes place in one house, that's in this sort of suburban area. This is a real city movie. And so I hope it gets a restoration and release. I'd like to see what it looks like in high definition because the DVD is a little muddy, and it looks like it was really well shot. So that's that
I'm sold on it.
I'll help. Check it out. Okay, got three more. Um, my first, this is a real personal favorite of mine, and I recently rewatched it because I'm doing a research project on the director, and it is Amityville 2: The Possession. What, you say? The Amityville movies aren't Italian? Ah, but this one is. It was directed by all-American cast, yes, but it was directed by Damiano Damiani, who's probably best known for some of his spaghetti westerns, A Bullet for the General, um, uh, How to Kill a Judge. She's done a lot of mafia films, Day of the Owl, and he's just great. Very political filmmaker, very radical. Always has social commentary in his work. I guess this one, not so much in this one. Maybe criticism of the Catholic Church. This is so. I actually think this is the best Amityville, and at this point, now that we've had this rush of direct to video, low budget Amityville. There's like Amityville Karen just came out. But the original three, which were all pretty competently directed. I think Amityville 2: The Possession is the scariest one. It's the scuzziest one. It brings back what's his face from the original one, Burt Young from the original as. Oh wait, he's not in the original, is he? No.
I don't think so, no.
Don't listen to a thing I'm saying. Burt Young from Rocky is this sort of alcoholic dad. There's some abuse in the household. Diane Franklin, whom most people know from Better Off Dead, the French foreign exchange student from Better Off Dead, is great in this. And it's got all of the uncomfortable stuff you want in a Catholic-themed horror movie. A demon possession, domestic abuse, incest, all these things that are really uncomfortable and scary. This is not a funny movie. It is a horror movie. Really well done. Andrew Prine has a small role in it. I highly recommend. Anytime you see Damiano Damiani's name, you should check the film out. In fact, Arrow just put out, I haven't watched these yet, but they just put out their Gothic Fantastico set of some older Italian horror films. And one of Damiano's early films, The Witch, is in there. And it is quite good. So I'm very excited about that.
Didn't Radiance just do one of his movies?
Yes. Well, they did a whole set of films with him and
Franco Nero? Yeah.
Franco Nero. Yeah, and they're all mafia-themed films. The three films are Day of the Owl, I believe. Yes. The Case is Closed, Forget It. And How to Kill a Judge, which was originally released on DVD by Blue Underground. So I'm really excited about that. I've got a pre-order in at Diabolic. I'm waiting for it and my Martin Blu-ray. So I'm super, super excited about those. Yana is a great filmmaker.
I love mine.
Yeah. I know. I'm waiting. Okay, last two. This next one is a Lamberto Bava movie. And it has, speaking of Dario Argento's ex-wife, Daria Nicolodi is one of the stars, along with Capucine, who people probably know best from The Pink Panther at this point, and George Eastman. But the real star is Serena Grandi, who is aptly named. This movie really makes a spectacle of her ample bosom. And yes, it's exploitive, but it's also part of the point. Delirium.
Oh, I think I have seen that.
Photo of a Joya or Joya. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it. But this is a very Freudian. This is about the most Freudian giallo I've ever seen, and that is saying something. there are there are so many bold and blunt connections of violence and sex in this movie that it would give an entire department of film theorists um, enough to put on a conference panel about. This movie is strange, weird, gross, sexy, off-putting. I think it's Lamberto Bava's best movie. Others will probably say A Blade in the Dark. We'll see what happens when that 4K Blade in the Dark comes out in a few months from Vinegar Syndrome. But I love Delirium. And not available. Oh, it is available in U.S. release. Code Red put it out. It's not the greatest transfer. It really does need a restoration, but kudos to Code Red for making sure it is available to North American audiences. All right, well, that brings me to my number one, and I know you'll be able to guess what it is. I have to cover part of the Shameless Blu-ray. This is Della Morte dell'Amore, The Cemetery Man. All right, I'll put this down. I'll hold up the more recognizable.
Oh, that's the copy I had for like 2 years.
That's right. You borrowed this for basically the entirety of the pandemic, I think.
Yeah.
But good. I'm glad you had it because it is a great
I watched it multiple times, and I still don't know what I've seen, but I liked
it. It's basically like it's Vertigo. It's a remake or a reimagining of Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo. But instead of Jimmy Stewart as like, what is he, like a ad man?
Yeah.
It's Rupert Everett as an undertaker. And the film it takes place in a cemetery and an ossuary, and it's also a zombie film. And it's a very philosophical movie. Lots of musing about the nature of identity and existence and reality and what's real and what's not real, just as Vertigo does. But there are shots that are direct quotes from Vertigo. Most interestingly, a shot that goes into the bun of Anna Falchi is the actress, so it goes into the spiral of her hair, just like it does in Kim Novak's in Vertigo. The ending is one of my favorite endings in the history of movies. I will not spoil anything more about this. If anybody watching has not seen Cemetery Man, it is not available on Blu-ray in the United States. This is an Anchor Bay DVD from like the late 90s. That's about the best you can do. You can import the Shameless Blu-ray. It's not the best edition, but it is a little bit of an upgrade onto the DVD. When people ask me my favorite movie of all time, for many years, Cemetery Man was what I would say. Now I have a rotating set of 5 or 6 movies, but Cemetery Man is still in there. It is, and it's directed by Michele Soavi, who we just discussed before. And this was his last feature film for quite some time. He he semi-retired for a while to spend time with his family. I don't know this for sure, but I read somewhere that there might have been an illness in his family, maybe among one of his children. I could also just be sharing a false memory, so internet, feel free to correct us in the comments. He started doing made-for-television movies later, including like a 3-hour biopic of St. Francis.
Why not?
Then he did some a cop show called Uno Bianchi, and most recently, what's that new really popular Italian crime show? I'm Googling it to try and find it out. It's the name of the guy. Come on. Let's see. It's a police procedural, and it is called Rocco Schiavone, Cold Case Files. And Suave directed most of the first season, and that's his most recent credit. And I just picked up the first season so that I can check it out. This is like 2016 started out, and it's still going. I think it's on season 4 now. But yeah, most of the first season was directed by Michele Suave, which is pretty exciting, if you ask me. Love Suave. He also did The Church and The Sect and Stage Fright. So he really came as an apprentice to Fulci and Argento and to a lesser extent to Bava. He really came out as someone I think is a true visionary director, and Cemetery Man is his masterpiece. So that's my withered watch pile.
Is it withered?
Yeah.
Mine doesn't seem to wither.
Well, that's because you're still young. It's harder for me now that I'm middle-aged. Do you have any to watch soons that are at the top of your next up list?
Well, I'm about to pull this stack over to the watch table, and it includes Centipede Horror.
Oh yeah!
I haven't seen it yet. I can't wait.
Love it.
I need to rotate this. I have Red Spell Red. I haven't looked at these because it came in while I had COVID, and I didn't even want to look at it because I was like, oh, I might get sick and throw up everywhere. I don't know, but I want to watch it now. And I have this box set from Deaf Crocodile, which is the this box set, the time-bending mysteries of Sharon Mokri. It looks amazing. Everyone I know who's seen these movies say it's really trippy, very well done, and thought-provoking. So I'm excited. And I'm debating on showing this on screen because I will do a review eventually. And I want it to be a surprise, but I don't think it will be a surprise. I will be watching Bat Pussy and doing a review on it. Because I need to get the bots to come back to my channel. Because they would... Anytime you put a sexual word into a title, all the bots come running. French Sex Murders, Gestapo's Last Orgy, lots of movies that have sexual names in it do really well on the algorithm. Then I have Solomon King, which I'm excited for.
A lot of Deaf Crocodile there.
And then rewatch of Henry the Portrait of a Serial Killer. I have the limited Blu-ray, which I think I traded for. But
very cool.
What about you? Any fun to watch movies coming up?
Well, I'm working on an article about the director Jack Arnold, who was a pioneer of 3D technology back in the 50s. He's best known, of course, for Creature from the Black Lagoon. I'm actually writing, he did a lot of 3D movies, including Westerns. And so I'm watching a lot of his Westerns right now. One in particular is one of his last movies that he made with Fred Williamson and D'Urville Martin, who directed Dolomite. Yeah. So I'm watching a bunch of those. He did The Incredible Shrinking Man, which I just watched for the first time on the Criterion edition, and it is great. So I'm watching that. I'm also going to go through this Italian Gothic horror box from Arrow, the Gothic Fantastico. And also from Arrow, I just picked up, where is it here? The House That Screamed. So I'm going to watch that for the first time.
Very good.
Well, I picked this up not realizing I already had a copy from Shout Factory.
It's a new restoration, I think, right?
Yeah, yeah, and it'll be interesting to compare the two. I'm going to watch that, and then I'm going to rewatch, sticking with the Italian Gothic. This is my most wanted Italian horror film to get a high definition restoration, and that is The House with Laughing Windows, Pupi Avati. Um, got the Shriek Show DVD from, gosh, decades ago now. Great movie. Really would benefit from a 4K restoration, so I hope it happens sometime. So those are my big upcoming watches. That's pretty good. Hey, here's an idea for a special Withering watch pile. Won't be able to do it for a couple weeks, but how about an Error 4444 spotlight? Because I think, am I correct? Like me, you have everything that they've released so far, right?
I think so. I have Warped Forest, Funky Forest, Anatomia, and I have the 2 that I just showed. Have they done anything else? Because that's 5.
I think the next thing that they have is Fatal Termination, but it's not. We don't have a release date. So this is 5 films. I think we can do a 5-film showcase on air because I haven't heard from them in a while. Right? They announced that Fatal Termination, and they put up on their website. I'm looking now. Several Challenge of the Lady Ninja, Red to Kill, Run and Kill, Thrilling Bloody Sword, Imperial Sword, Killing the Devil, all of which I will be happy to check out. But yeah, I'd love to have a conversation of what they've done so far.
Sure, yeah, that'd be great. Because I've only talked about Anatomia on my channel, and we'll have to talk about one of the best films ever, Tokyo Gore Police, if we're going to talk about Anatomia.
Yes.
Which needs a Blu-ray too. It has a very low quality one. Yeah. Which I was really hoping Error 4444 would announce that, because that's a prequel. Anatomia is, and on the special features after they interview the director, it says stay tuned is all it says, and I'm like, they better release Tokyo Gore Police.
Well, we can hope, and yeah, let's get together in a couple weeks and we'll talk about their output and our wish lists, which which I'm sure that they would enjoy hearing.
All right, well, thank you again for joining me today. This was a lot of fun. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Please like it, favorite it, subscribe. Check out all the Will links that I'll put on the bottom. It has a lot of great books. I've read almost all of the Tobe Hooper ones. All the chapters for that, and I can say it's very good. So please go do that if you haven't already. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and please have a great rest of the night.